George Michael hasn't been one to shy away from politics, but his controversial single, Shoot the Dog, a less than subtle swipe at Tony Blair and George Bush, provoked outrage in America and raised eyebrows here.
Tell him, Tony, 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 I know that you're horny, but there's something about that bush ain't right.
So how have your politics changed over the years? I mean, you came to power, as it were, Mrs. Thatcher's, the height of Mrs. Thatcher's power.
Yeah,
I mean,
until I was 30, what would it be, well, early 30s. Until I was early 30s, I'd never paid a penny that hadn't gone to the Tory government, you know. So I was well and truly used to the idea that I didn't like where my money was going.
And did you herald Tony Blair as a new dawn?
I did, yeah. I was one of those fools that sat up at night with a tear in my eye thinking, my God, things could change.
Had he feted you? Because he feted quite a lot of artists.
Yes, I mean, I'd spoken to him. I'd gone to his house in Islington before he was elected. And very, very nice, pleasant, decent man.
So what did he want from you in Islington? Support?
Well, just support. And I had said I wasn't going to go to that Cool Britannia thing. I'm a little smarter than that, a little longer in the tooth than that. I just knew that was going to be a bit of a joke. So I stayed away from that and said, well, if he wants my support, I'll see him personally. And he was very nice man. I hate the fact that I've had to slag him off so much, but I just hate what he's doing.
But do you still support him?
I can't. I'd love to, because I think I actually think that public spending is a good thing in the areas that whether they're creating a few false jobs along the way or not. I do actually think that the public spending and the money that is going towards the attempts, at least, that are being made in various areas have been quite successful. So it breaks my heart to have to criticise their leader.
But you became very overtly political around the Iraq War. Do you think that was wise? I mean, some people have called you naive about that, and that it was a bad career.
You know what I think? What was naive about it was the timing. I genuinely believed people were more concerned than they were already. You see, you can really. That's the thing about being a politician, isn't it? You have to understand timing. And there are two things that I understood after that. One was, if you are one of the earliest messengers of doom, people can react the wrong way. Whereas if you try and take that message at the exact time that people will listen to it, I think I really was I wrote a song in the year 2000 about the fact that I thought it was very uncomfortable that our leader was so friendly with a born-again Christian at a moment where fundamentalism was the most dangerous thing on the planet. And it really was. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea Tony Blair would make me look so astute, over the next 5 years. But I really did something that I think was initially meant to make no impression at all outside of to my fans, because it was just talking about a possibility. That was the thing. And actually, on the last day of recording Shoot the Dog, the planes hit the towers. It was just so ridiculous. I just suddenly thought, my God, well, obviously this can't come out now. It would be too offensive. But then a year later, when there was still some question about whether or not Tony would go ahead, I thought I had to go for it. I had to do something, because I was just eaten up with guilt that I had an opportunity to speak out and I wasn't taking it,
So you've been to the house for dinner, and then you have this cartoon which shows Cherie saying, "Are you horny tonight, Tony?"
Well, it says, "Tony, Tony, Tony, I know that you're horny, but there's something about that bush ain't right." Which is a bit naughty, really. But, I did actually understand the concept that people would be scared to talk about it in some ways, which is why I used humour. And the idea that I really didn't create anything very, very controversial. I think it was absolutely necessary to make it look very controversial in order to shut other people up.
You must have known, of course, that it would go down a lead balloon in America.
I knew it, but I was naive. I just thought there were more people with their eyes open than there were. And of course now the vast majority of people have their eyes open, but you know, I don't think I'll be doing that again in a hurry, for the simple reason that you have to be the right man for the job. You know, you have to not be somebody that your average male journalist wants to jump up and down on from a great height, you know.
What do you think now, though, that the draft constitution seems to have had the acceptance of a reasonable number of Iraqis?
I don't doubt for a moment that the vast majority of Iraqis want this thing to work. Whether or not it will, I think, is another question entirely. And I think that they are absolutely, they're locked into a dreadful, dreadful situation, and it will be constantly a matter of trying to keep civil war at bay. And I think as long as that's going on, I'm just horrified by speeches that totally ignore the amount of Iraqi loss and talk about terrorists as though somehow there is a massive difference between blowing somebody up from a car 20 yards from them and dropping a bomb on them from a great height. You know,
it's motive, isn't it?
It's, well, the real difference is that one is an elected party and one is not. You know, but ultimately terrorism just breeds terrorism, death. I mean, every time they kill an Iraqi civilian or soldier, they create a family who at least one member of will probably be prepared to die to avenge that death, you know.
What did you think when the London bombings happened then?
Well, I thought, again, I think very cleverly the media tried to downplay what was actually being said. You know, that very disturbing message from, you know, the guy with the northern accent, the one that was sent back, you know, the tape about the bombings. What he was really trying to say, but unfortunately the rhetoric of it was a little, you know, dignified. But really what he was trying to say was that we had been spared the bombing until the point that we voted Tony back in again.
But look, but you don't have any, there's no justification for that.
No, absolutely. No justification
whatsoever.
Oh no, what I'm saying is I think killing is killing. It's you know, an absolute sin. And outside of very definite situations, I think what we did in Iraq was absolutely terrible. I think I don't have any sympathy with anyone who decides to strap explosives to themselves and kill total strangers. No, it's a horrific, dreadful crime. But to me, the obvious human dynamic is that the longer this war, or rather this, you know, insurgency goes on in Iraq, the more bombs, the more suicide bombers, you know, every day that passes, you create new terrorists. And I don't see how that situation goes away, really.